Today on I Am Rising, my heroine's journey. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to title it. I've been reading and studying The Heroine's Journey by, I think it's Maureen Murdoch. And this has been a big part of my journey through cancer. And so this is going to be a little revealing, and I'm welcoming that. So, yeah, let me just dive back to pre-cancer Tina. Well, let's just go all the way back to being a little girl and the purity and innocence of little Tina, of just fun and play and magic without a care in the world. When I think back to her, she had the most wild imagination and really believed in every moment, playing roles and singing and playing and being fully in that moment. I felt a lot and I believed so much in myself. My dad used to always say, "Be yourself." And he still says it. And who would have ever thought that living in a household where my dad would say, "Be yourself," that I would struggle so much not knowing who I really was. And then becoming an actress for so long to then be someone else, but to stay back with the little girl aspect of this. I had all of these friends when I was younger, and I've never shared this, which is kind of crazy. And everything was fine until I believe 6th grade, 7th grade, where some of it I really don't remember. I think the pain is too deep. But when all the schools merged into junior high, all the girls that were my friends, best friends, all growing up, abandoned me. I don't think I was cool anymore. I don't know what happened in that summer. I did go through an awkward phase and never felt good in my skin as I was growing. Never felt comfortable. But in that interim, showing up to 7th and 8th grade was the most awkward and painful of my life. And I felt so alone. I felt so ugly. I felt like I wanted to escape my body. I used to wear big oversized clothing. It was kind of the style too, but I was wearing it to hide, not knowing that. And I had to find all new friends. I also remember, though, being a little girl, and when I really did shine my light intuitively, it was laughed at. It was very obvious that if I shared the mystical, intuitive part of me, people thought that was weird. If there were boys around, they would make, mean comments. So I learned to keep that inside at an early age. But then it was like the more I was me, I would get the same reaction. If I spoke up and shared an idea, it was laughed at. If I shared something that was good-natured and spiritual, I was called a goody two-shoes. And I learned over time, it's not safe to be me. Then came more meanness from the girls. I was very skinny as a little girl, but I ate so much. And they would say things like, What are you, anorexic? Do you even eat? I don't know if they sounded like that, but this was very, very, very painful. And then this would move on throughout my life to have friends steal a boyfriend, lie, talk behind my back, bully me. And I really learned to not trust women. And I've had a problem with women most of my life. Women have always misjudged me, assumed something of me that hasn't been true. And so I've kind of just had a lot of guy friends throughout my life up until, these last like 10, 15 years. And I say all this to kind of just paint the picture because I've done a lot of deep healing around it. But I've also carried the story that it was all these other women that were the problem. And what cancer did for me was, as I've shared in prior episodes, got me into my body, into my heart, to meet all these versions of myself throughout the years when I had closed, when I stopped feeling. And so I have a whole repertoire of little Tinas that I really continue to breathe into and feel and welcome and notice different patterns unraveling and cry out old identities. And it's been beautiful. And yet some of the denser ones kind of really remain. And in the last few months, I've had some experiences with women that have been a big trigger, that are another layer of my awareness that I'm sharing today. And there have been a few women to either say that I charge too much when I really don't. Maybe for some people, but on the realm of what people charge, I don't charge enough, and I will be raising my rates. But these particular women either canceled an appointment or made a comment, or I heard from someone else that they said, that's too much. Who does she think she is? Kind of thing. There's that voice. And then I had another experience with a woman in a breakout room of a spiritual class that I was in, that when I was sharing something, because it felt like a safe place to share, when I shared something so deep that was very revealing because my heart felt open, not only was she not really paying attention, but then when it came time for her to speak, she went, wow, that's deep, like in a real derogatory way. And then she said, what did she say? Yeah, I don't go back to my past. The present's here, or something like that. And it triggered a lot. But even though it triggered it in the moment, because of what I've stepped into these past 4 years, it wasn't as reactive as it would have been in the past. I kept eye contact with her. I breathed and held space, noticing the trigger within myself. Really saw her as the Christ, and I was even in my mind saying, may the Christ in me behold the Christ in you. May the love in me honor the light in you, as I was feeling triggered and trying to just be as present as I could in this circumstance. And then in the aftermath, there have been times with all three of these women where there's another Tina in there that's like, F you. And I really want to drop the F bomb, but I don't know. Am I allowed to on my own podcast? And so I've been kind of dancing and walking with all of this and laughing about it, but also like some of this has been really frustrating, because it's like, I know better, and yet why does this still bother me so much? Why am I still so triggered? And I know not to ask those questions, so when I hear myself ask them, I'm like, okay. I always, for me, call on the Holy Spirit I asked that forgiveness set me and everyone free. I got that from one of my Course in Miracles teachers, Mark Anthony Lord. Him and Aaron Abke, who are my course teachers, are just next level amazing. And so much of the past few years have been really surrendering and being all about forgiveness and operating from the higher Christ rather than the separated ego, which is the work I was doing before, but this just paints a new lens. But it doesn't mean that it's easy. And that's because when operating from the ego, it's going to continue to separate and point fingers. And there's a part of, there's a part of us that likes that. There's a part of me that's like, I want to hold on to this anger. There's a part of me that's like, screw these people. There's a part of me that wants to stay in the anger, that feels justified in the anger, especially when I think of little Tina. She didn't deserve to be treated that way. She didn't deserve to be laughed at, rejected, humiliated. And so I'm justified in holding my anger, right? And then it depends on what we truly want. What's the outcome that we truly desire? And so as a trainer in Alchemy of Breath, we teach the conscious loving. I don't know if it'll be backwards, but Conscious Loving by Gay Hendricks and Katie Hendricks. The journey to co-commitments. And this has been my life for 4 years. So it's all about the commitments that we make. And some of them that are really powerful are telling the microscopic truth, knowing that I am 100% the creator, the source of my reality. I get to choose. I can choose to hold onto this anger and point the fingers at these women for hurting me. But by pointing the fingers, I'm not looking at what's the energy in me that is the reason that I'm triggered. This is where I go from victim, this is happening to me, to wow, there's a density that I'm holding in me that life is reflecting back to me through these women. And even though I've known this for a while, sometimes it's not enough. You've heard me say before, it's not enough to know it as a concept. There has to be a practice of it. And I've been practicing this for months, and I finally got the aha, which is why I'm sharing it now. And so I have my little journal here of some of my ahas. So let's go to the women who were complaining about my rate or canceling, etc. They were reflecting my uncertainty about my rates, and more importantly, my uncertainty or not committing to my value and my worth. I, for so long, have kind of tiptoed around rates and discounts and not realizing that all of that devalues who I am and what I offer. And then, of course, what's going to show up are people not valuing my worth. How can they value my worth if I'm discounting all of the time? And I understand that, yeah, it's good to do things for free and help people to some capacity. And I absolutely, from everything that I have been through, am worth what I charge. But if I'm not standing firm in that, and I don't feel really convicted in my truth and really owning that, how do I expect anyone else to? And so I've been asking, what is it that I'm not seeing? So these women were basically showing me where I'm still holding lack, where I'm still feeling less than. How beautiful that rather than point the finger and get mad or get angry because they're not valuing me, it's not about them. It's about me. And so how beautiful that now they are my teacher, that I get to say thank you for showing me the lack that I didn't know that was in here. And thank you for also showing me that when you asked for my rate and I gave it in an uncertain way, you're just reflecting back that to me so that I can really drop into my certainty and also know that when I'm in that certainty, only those that are going to be a match are going to be the ones that come to me. So I don't have to discount to try to get someone and then be depleted because the energy isn't a fit. I get to own and really work on who I know I'm here to serve and be able to just say, my rate is blank, period, the end, no apologies, no discounts, no anything. And when I'm confirmed in that, that's what I attract. And anything lingering, I get to just see it for what it is, feel and breathe into it. The other awareness, the lady from the breakout room, she represents all the little girls when I was young to reject my depth, and little boys, I should say too. Reject me in my sharing my heart. So what I learned is that back when I was young and I was rejected, rather than stay in the love of who I am and keep trusting it, I chose to reject myself and started to be someone else. This is where personas come in. And I can't then beat myself up because back at that time, it hurt so deeply to not be accepted. It hurt so deeply to be humiliated, to be abandoned. I remember walking in the hallways and they didn't even make eye contact. Never said a word, never said anything, just stopped talking to me. So, yeah, that hurt and that wound was so deep. And this is what we do. We create personas to protect us. So this was the beginning of my creation of walls of protection to not let them in. Even so far as to become the mean girl, because I didn't want to be called goody two-shoes anymore. And then the more mean I was, the more walls that were there, the more I didn't let myself feel. Not only did I start to trap all of those frozen memories inside, but underneath it all is that pure light. Then throughout my life, this persona, this role as an actress, this new identity, all just continuing to reject myself and then project onto the world all of that hurt. And then more betrayal, more lies, more circumstances for people to hurt me. And so what do I get to do? Love the part of me that wants to be so angry and judge these women. Love the me who didn't know any better when I was a little girl. And know and love all of the protective me's that were there for just that. And say thank you for protecting me. It's okay that we did it that way, and now we can do it a different way. All of this points to lack and pain and rejection that I'm holding inside. And by loving and accepting and feeling and forgiving, I set myself free. The deeper layer here is the understanding that back when these little girls did this to me to begin with, it was based on them not knowing themselves. It was based on them and their hurt and their own closure and not being in alignment with love or their heart. So how could I possibly hold them in that? If anything, it helps me have deep compassion. And when someone doesn't know who they are and they act from not knowing who they are, can I just drop in to hold them in that space and see them in their light? So all of these attachments and all of these old identities and personas, they are created to protect us. But if we don't meet them, breathe into them, feel them, they just become the programs in the background that are just hurting us, that are also the subconscious that is just reacting to something in the past and perpetuating the same pattern. This is why we get to take 100% responsibility for what shows up. Because what's the alternative? Staying in a world of separation and blaming everything and everyone, and then you're the victim. You can live that way. A lot of people do. You'll never heal, though. This is the beauty and the depth of this work. This is what I was sharing in the breakout room that this woman, in my intuition and deep meditation since, she has not let in. And that's not for me to judge. A lot of people spiritually bypass. I'm laughing because a lot of people spiritually bypass. What does that mean, you might ask? When everything in them is either pain, resentment, anger, unforgiveness, sadness, grief, and they just take a spiritual principle and just be like, I'm happy, I'm loving, I'm beautiful, I'm wise, I forgive, or like whatever, and yet there's no depth to it. There's no feeling it. It's just putting the ice cream on poop. It's the positivity loop that's not doing anything if what's here isn't in alignment. That's why tapping is so helpful, EFT tapping, because you're acknowledging what's here and you're opening to something higher, letting the nervous system know that it's okay that it is or was this way. And what if this is for me to move beyond it into my wholeness and set all of us free? And so forgiveness isn't something that the ego does. It can't. So when people are trying so hard to forgive, it's never going to happen in the mind that sees it as a problem. And that's okay. It's more of a handing over the energy that we're holding on to so that true healing can really come in. And so I'm so grateful for this opportunity to feel into where there's still residue, to actually be grateful for all of this that continues to show up to point me inward on this heroine's journey, and to go deeper with all of it. The heroine's journey itself as a rite of passage, which I'm going to be teaching soon, is that dive into the underworld, the inner world, which 5,000 years the feminine has been suppressed. all of that suppression, it's the heavy, dense, unfelt energy, emotion. And as we come out of that patriarchy dominance, and as there's this rise of the feminine, it can only truly rise by shining a light on the shadow on the inside, giving us the opportunity to feel it. And throughout these thousands of years, throughout centuries, throughout time, there is this betrayal of women that is in the cellular memory. And it's because when women really did rise to their power in other time frames, they were burned at the stake. Women were killed, hung, called witches. And as a result, if you at that time, as a woman, knew of someone doing any kind of herbal medicine, spiritual healing, natural healing, and you knew of it, they would torture you if you didn't give up that woman. And so there was a lot of betrayal and torture and hurt and suffering because of how it was all laid out. And so that's a piece of it as well. And we get to transmute that when we take ownership of what we are housing inside. This is why we're here. When we do this deeper inner work, we are clearing it for our lineage and for the collective. Because by feeling it and being with it and sitting with it and letting it move through us, that lets the light in, the higher light. The higher light is the higher vibration, is the higher frequency, and it moves everything. But when we're holding on to the resentment, to the story, clamped down and all tight, what light can come in? It can't. And then that is just more suffering for everybody. So you can only be where you are. For months, I've been sitting with pieces of this and still feeling the anger, but I let myself feel it. And I even let myself then laugh at it when I catch my mind wanting to completely go back to attack. Any attack thought keeps everybody in prison and everybody small and everybody separated. But as Jesus said, as I am lifted up, I draw all others unto me. So when we embody that Christ consciousness, that energy of the Creator, and live and operate from that place, and know that everyone in our world at their core is that light, and we can hold them in that light, we lift it up. If we see and point the finger at the anger, the bitterness, the resentment, the issue, everybody just stays in separation. But when you rise to know the divine truth, that all of this is actually you. So these, to get even really deep, these women showing up now are all me anyway, because there is only one. So there's an opportunity every moment Are you choosing from your higher you, or is it the subconscious choosing? And if it doesn't feel like love and forgiveness, then it's a lie. And then it's the ego and the small self and the pattern all saying the same thing. So what would the world look like if we could really trust and know that each one of us is 100% responsible for what shows up around us? It's an energy in us that is being triggered, because you wouldn't be triggered if you were just in a state and space of love. It's not possible, because then you're in that light of the Christ, of the Creator, where there is only love. The more we can love all that comes up, feel it, and give ourselves what we didn't get from the others. So in my case, accept myself fully rather than reject. Give myself unconditional love and compassion, knowing that I've always had it all, rather than focusing on lack. Give myself radical forgiveness for not knowing who I was and wanting to be someone else, rather than judging myself and holding myself in prison. I can only do that with the energy in me, and by doing it in me, it changes the whole world. Everything in my world will show up differently only when I meet the energy within myself with love, compassion, and forgiveness. And it's not something the ego does. It's the deeper, higher me on the inside. And so as I close, I just invite you to really look at what triggers you the most, where you feel rejected, where you've been betrayed, who you're pointing fingers at. And are you willing to see it differently? And say, show me a higher way of seeing this. Show me where there are errors in my thinking and where I am seeing this from my pain and not from love. And when you start to ask these higher questions or ask to be shown, it does and will happen. And then you might feel the other energies wanting to really still hold on to the pain. And you get to be with that too. It's all part of the process. You have a lifetime of conditioning a certain way. We can't expect overnight to just be healed. But then that's why we're here, to play with this, to feel this, to be with this, to love it and celebrate it, all of it. It's the dichotomy and the duality that is how we learn and how we grow. And so can you just become more present and love what's here and accept it rather than fight it and resist it? And then open to the truest you that's just waiting in your heart for you to come home. Thank you for listening. I send you so much love.